Welcome to Diagnostics by Rick. Today on 10-Minute Diagnostic, we will be looking at a very easy diag. In fact, this one really just shows that sometimes you need to back up so that you can see the forest through all the trees. This is a 2005 Chrysler 300 with a 5.7 liter Hemi engine. It will crank but not start, so let's jump right into it. The shop had recently installed a used PCM for another unrelated issue. This was ultimately their downfall because they were too focused on the PCM that had only been in the car for a few days and forgot to get back to the basics. On a side note, this was not a very fun diag due to the very unpleasant odor emanating from inside the car. Clearly this car had been sitting up for a while, as evidenced by all the mold in the back seat. And for those of you watching this on your lunch break, here's a close-up. The seatbelt is also covered in mold, and whatever that is at the base of the seatbelt looks like it used to be somebody's lunch. It was pretty disgusting. Starting with a scanner, the only code is for the engine oil temperature sensor. Although I will keep this in the back of my mind, it is unlikely that this has anything to do with the no start. While cranking the engine over, I'm getting an RPM reading. Cam crank sync is good, cam crank difference is near 0, and the ASD relay sense is good. It also says the fuel pump relay is being commanded on. So far, I see no problems. I choose some more PIDs and make sure that map, throttle, and APP are good. I still see no issues. Since I don't see anything obvious in scan data, it's time to check some basics. First, I remove a plug wire and verify a strong spark. Next, I want to make sure I have fuel pressure. And even though there is no fuel pressure test port, the fuel line is easily removed without any tools. When I pop it off, no fuel came out. Using the scan tool, I command the fuel pump on, and still no fuel comes out. The fuel pump relay is in the trunk. I verify the relay is clicking when I command it on with the scan tool. I remove the relay to install my tester, but before I do, I go ahead and touch terminals 30 and 87 to make sure I have a good power supply to the relay and a good connection to the fuel pump on the output side of the relay. I have a warning here. If you use a power probe or tester or any type of test tip to directly check the female pins on a component or a connector, do not force the tip into the connector. In fact, don't apply any pressure at all. It's okay to gently touch the edges of the female pins, but it does not take much pressure to bend them or to spread the contact, so be careful. In this case, the supply voltage to the relay is good. But when I touch the fuel pump side, I should see ground, but I do not. It's an open circuit. So the issue here is not with the relay. I have an open circuit to the fuel pump or in the fuel pump itself, or the ground for the fuel pump is missing. The fuel pump diagram is split into 2 pages, as seen here. The parts we are interested in is from terminal 87 of the relay through the pump and all the way to ground. I redrew these 2 diagrams into a single diagram to make it a little easier to see here. Here's the point I was touching with the power probe tip. This circuit continues to the fuel pump through the electric motor and then to ground. Since the power probe did not show ground, I know there's an open somewhere between here and ground G300. The fuel pump was easy to access under the biological experiment that this car called a back seat. With the relay removed, I still have no ground on the control side of the pump. I want the relay to be removed because I want to make sure that I am only checking the pump circuit. So at this point, this is either an open pump motor, or G300 is bad, or it's a connector issue right here at the pump. I moved the tester over 1 pin to make sure that the ground from G300 is good, and it is. Removing the connector, you can see that it has gotten hot and partially melted the housing. probably due to a fuel pump that was drawing too much current or possibly just a poor connection inside the connector that caused too much heat to build up. Either way, this car needs a new fuel pump and a new connector. This is a classic case of tunnel vision. The used PCM had only been in the car for a couple of days when the pump decided to die. They were so certain that the junkyard PCM was the problem that they forgot to go back and check the basics. It is something that I think we've all been guilty of at some point or another. While you certainly need to be aware that used parts and maybe even new parts can be defective, don't forget to back up and check the basics. It'll save you a lot of grief and headache. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. If you'd like to help support this channel, you can do so through Patreon, and I'll leave a link in the description below. Until next time, thanks everyone, and have a good day.